Hey everyone, this is Push the Lane. I'm James Rauman with Nick Allen. Nick Allen, the host so twice. You have to say his name twice. The host's so nice. I messed that up. But
you've ruined the whole
I did
joke.
ruin it. It was close. Nick, where's your suit? We said we were
it's
doing
not here.
suits.
I know. We're going to do suits. It should happen soon, but I'm happy to announce that James Rauman is wearing jeans today. Jean shorts, actually, they're cutoffs, and boy, do you look sexy.
They're very, very... I don't even know where
enough.
I'm going with
All right,
this.
enough about us, guys. The LCS, this was the first week. It was pretty exciting stuff. We saw some amazing games out of NA and EU. Some surprises, some tears.
Yeah. Right off the bat, if we show the NA rankings, we know that Curse 3-0 over the weekend. TSM was also very big at 2-1, and CLG also at 2-1. Whereas on the EU scene, that was actually really contested. SK Fnatic and Evil Geniuses all at 2-1 as well on the EU scene.
Yeah, some really cool stuff. I was a little bit surprised by a lot of the results, specifically in the EU scene with Gambit Gaming. We'll be talking about them a little bit more later, but some upsets, some crazy stuff. But let's go to our picks. We have our live on the scene correspondent, Buddy Hutton. How's it going over there, buddy?
It's going great.
Great. So maybe you can tell us about the picks.
Screen. Well, I
You're
can.
Looking good, buddy.
I can. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Nick, you did way worse than James on this one. You did way worse. James, 11 out of 16. Nick, 8 out of 16. That's a half. That's a half. Reddit did better than both of you guys.
Nick just flipped the coin.
Put my name up there. No, right here. Right here. Make it bigger. 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 Big. Big. Thank you. Buddy Hutton in the same studio that you guys are in.
All right, thanks for that, buddy. Good to have you on board with your amazing analysis of the picks there. Yes, 8 is half of 16. That is what I got. I'm a little disappointed.
You sat off on the side. You had your lucky coin,
Yes, whatever.
and it luckily flipped 50%.
Yes.
You definitely tossed that coin
many
for those
times.
picks.
Yeah, I didn't have the greatest picks, but that brings us to our first, kind of second topic of the day. NA winners. Who'd you think was winning? Who'd you think was, something to talk about?
There's no question Curse was a dominant team. We came into the tournament, we thought that Curse was the best NA team, and they really were. They were the most prepared. They looked very strong. Boy is a superstar. But if you look at some of the other teams, TSM was actually a big surprise. But they almost shouldn't have been. You know, you looked at them. I don't know how much of a surprise it was because they looked exactly like TSM looked all of last year. And I think we all just kind of expected, well, they've been doing poorly in online tournaments. They've been doing poorly with scrims, those kind of things. So we all kind of just thought that maybe they're dropping off. But they looked like the same team, and you saw that same TSM kind of strategy, which is very unique to them, which is they run these aggressive, all-in kind of teams. If you look at this fight right here, they just all have champions that dive in because Reginald is just a big playmaker for them, and it takes pressure off of Chaos because Chaos, he actually struggles as an AD carry with positioning in team fights, but he is capable of making plays, in those small fights when they keep him protected. So by diving on the enemy AD carry, they put pressure on him and take it away from Chaos, and it actually works very well for them. They could struggle though down the line, but we'll see what they're doing right now. It should be pretty exciting to follow them.
Yeah, it should be exciting. I have a lot to say about TSM, but it's not going to be until the NA losers section, our next topic. But for now, actually, and a little bit of a twist, I'm talking about NA winners, Good Game University, GGU. Of course, they did go 0-2 on the week, but they surprised everybody. They had really strong early game play, but they just weren't able to hold it out. But the big takeaway from this week with GGU is they can compete. Yes. They have the ability to compete with these top teams. They almost beat Curse. It was really, really close. They look strong against CLG as well. So I think really they are one of the winners coming out of this week. They know that they can dominate. Well, they have the potential.
And you actually made that pick, GGU versus CLG.
Yeah.
It was wrong.
Yeah.
But it was a ballsy pick.
Yeah.
I respect it, Nick.
I
really do. Because GGU, they did look very strong, but you saw one of the weaknesses with their team. Against CLG, they didn't have that coordination around the map that CLG had. So GGU, even though they were winning every single team fight, CLG actually manipulated them. And that's GGU, they need to take their game to the next level because they play these team fight comps that are just very strong about AoE, all in, just doing massive damage. And they're very good at running them. Rumble, they're dominant with Rumble. Zion, Spartan in the top lane is very strong. The question is, can they manipulate the map? And that's where they struggled. They struggled at those late game decisions, and that's really what cost them the game.
We will have to see how they do in the coming weeks, but that moves us into the NA losers section. So I said TSM here, and really they went 2-1, so really they're winners for the week, but I was really unimpressed with their play, and I think that's the big takeaway, specifically Chaos. He hasn't been playing his best, but it's hard to tell whether that's an individual problem with Chaos or if it's really just the state of AD carries right now.
Yep.
They aren't so much the focus. It's really a lot about that mid and that top lane. But KX really underperformed. He wasn't carrying like he needed to. He wasn't getting those kills, and he just wasn't playing his best. And I think that's the big issue for TSM going into this next week. Can KX step it up and be the AD carry that his team needs him to be?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think when you talk about losers for the NA scene, though, there's no question Dignitas was hands down the big loser. 1 and 2. They only won 1 game against Vulcan, but who would have made that pick for Vulcan to win? Oh, hey Nick, what's going on? Dignitas, we've talked about in the past, their team fighting is very strong, but they actually weren't making a lot of plays. Watching them, it looked like they were almost playing not to lose. So they're very, slow, methodical, controlled, but they're not making those big plays. Dominate, he was a playmaker. He was very aggressive in the jungle. We'll see how they develop forward. Kiwi Kid actually looked okay, but they would get ahead in games. They would get some, early team fights and then lose one big fight that would just completely throw the game for them. So kind of struggling in that regard. We'll have to see how they do going forward.
Yeah, Kiwi Kid did remarkably well in the last game against Vulcan. I think Kiwi Kid went 8-2, so he has the potential. Oh yeah. No, he has the potential to do well, and I think he will in the future. It's just a matter of time. But that moves us on to EU. The LCS, a lot of surprises there as well. EU winners, who do you have?
Well, there's no question SK was a big winner on the weekend. Fnatic as well looked really impressive. Yeah. And the thing that I loved about Fnatic was you saw a lot of diversity in their strategies. We've known in the past that they have XPK and Soaz are both some of the best players in the world. But XPK this weekend, Nidalee was awesome. And there was this one play in particular where XPK on Nidalee, he baits out a 3v1, or it's actually a 3v2 with the support. And while he's doing that, his team is backdooring. And Giants, the team that took down Gambit Gaming, lost this match as a result. And Giants, they had a really strong team fighting phase, but you saw this great manipulation of the map from Fnatic. So they know their game very well. They know how to make how to pull out wins for themselves in tough situations, and it's going to be exciting to see them play. They actually took down SK as well in dramatic fashion there. SK looking very impressive.
Yeah.
But you saw one of the struggles with SK that late game. They allowed one of the games to go to like 50 minutes when they're up 25K. I mean, they're struggling to end games. Versus Fnatic in particular, there was this really great fight that I just love because SK was winning all the team fights. They were stronger than Fnatic. And XPK, he forces the AoE with Evelynn not to instantly kill everyone from SK, but actually to set up Caitlyn to be very safe and poke them down from the back line. And SK, they weren't organized. They weren't able to focus people down, which was the strength of their team, controlling that front line with Anivia. And that one team fight, Fnatic rushed the base. So we'll see how they do with those late game team fights a little bit more, if they can seal the deal a little bit better. But really impressive play from both of them. Fnatic in particular just wowed me, though.
Yeah, Fnatic played really, really well. I think the big surprising thing for me was there wasn't a clear front runner for EU LCS, not like we saw in NA. Curse 3-0 in NA, but here we have 3 teams at 2-1, Evil Geniuses, Fnatic, and SK Gaming. So, a lot of top contenders right now. Gambit Gaming 1 and 2, we'll talk about them in a second. But the big winner for me, Evil Geniuses, I was so surprised they were able to pull off the wins that they did, especially with the terrible internet that they've had for this past week, and then Crepo not being in Cologne until right before the match. But they still held down and buckled down and played the style that they wanted to play. They actually went aggressive in the game against SK, and that ended up costing them. They weren't playing exactly normal. They didn't play that slow late game style that we see out of EG. And I can't say necessarily if that was what caused them to lose against SK, but SK looking really strong, and that is so weird to say.
Yeah, no, it is pretty funny to say, but I'm very impressed. Hercubot looks awesome in the jungle. They're making the plays. Evil Geniuses, I was blown away by their play versus Gambit Gaming in particular.
Yeah.
Froggen on Anivia was very strong, but you always kind of think of Froggen as a defensive pick. Shen as well. Maokai can be very aggressive early on, but they have this team of Shen, Maokai, and Anivia, and Gambit Gaming took a 4-minute dragon with Udyr, which is just like mind-blowing on Diamond Prox. He's actually done it in the past with Lee Sin as well. But they actually were forcing fights with GG. So even though they knew they have this nice defensive team, they took advantage of the single target CC, the tankiness, and the base damage that those 3 champions have, and they were able to force a number of early kills on Gambit Gaming in order to pull ahead. And Udyr was worthless. I mean, Udyr, Olaf, they really struggled. They had a short-range team, Gambit Gaming did, against Anivia, and Froggen shut them down. Yeah,
that's a good segue into the next section, the EU losers. And I'm sure you agree, Gambit Gaming, the big losers from this week. 1 and 2, not terrible. They did manage to pull out a win, but I think a lot of it, they were running some kind of obscure stuff. They're running Volibear in the jungle. They're playing Udyr, which we haven't seen either of those champions in Season 3 all that much. They had that interesting play against CG where they did the quick Baron, or the quick Dragon, but I think a lot of the risk-taking is proving to be a deficit for them. They aren't able to pull out these wins.
I'm kind of wondering if going down the line, how we'll see them develop, because I feel like maybe they underestimated their competition a little bit.
Yeah.
We underestimated it as well. I mean, we thought Gambit Gaming was going to run away with the weekend, but you actually saw some interesting things versus Giants. They kind of misplayed that setup. And Giants, I have them listed down here in the losers just because they're in the bottom 3 of the EU right now. But at 1-1, they're definitely confident here. And if you actually watch this play, Gambit versus Giants, they ran right into the Kennen and Zyra ults. So Giants, on their AD and support, they had lots of CC, which allowed them to have a jungler and a mid and a top who all have really high base damage early in the game in Mundo, Ryze, and Olaf. And they were able to just burst them down. And Gambit kind of came in one at a time almost in that team fight. And so Giants were able to take early leads there. But so they struggled there versus Giants early in the game. They struggled. They did the exact same thing versus Evil Geniuses, running into a heavy CC team with short-range melee champions early in the game. So both games putting themselves behind as a result of these mistakes. So we'll kind of see what happens with them later on. But Giants looking very impressive, sticking that Kennen. I'd like to see where they go from here. I'd like to see what happens, if they aren't running that Kennen every game. But they definitely had a good showing.
Yeah, it was definitely refreshing from Gambit Gaming to see that those new champions, the new styles, the rushing of the dragon. It's cool to see all of that stuff. So I hope we continue to see more and more of that in the LCS. There is a lot on the line, so I could see teams playing conservative. But if this week is anything to show, there's a lot of cool stuff ahead.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. Last loser for the Wolves, they really struggled.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how they go going forward, if they can, pull out some things there. But once again, guys, thanks for watching. This has been Push the Lane. It's our new format. Once again, every Monday, we're going to be going a recap of the LCS and any other tournaments over the weekend. And then Wednesday or later in the week, but probably Wednesday, I believe, we're going to be having our picks for the upcoming LCS. So tune in every Monday and Wednesday for Push the Lane. In the future, we'll see. We're actually going to maybe try and get your picks as well.
Yeah.
Maybe do something with that. And hopefully I can keep up this streak of beating Nick Allen all season. I want to beat Reddit, though. That's the challenge.
Yeah, Reddit is really the bar to hit. So it's been fun, guys. Make sure you catch us on Wednesday, and we'll see you next time.